Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
In 2014, Renatus Capital Partners was established with the objective of writing investment cheques of between €1 and €3 million for Irish SMEs. Joining me now on the phone to discuss the investment process and what the company are looking for from prospective investees is the co-founder of the company, Mark Flood. Mark, prior to setting up Renatus Capital Partners with Brendan Traynor, you were the managing director of the Racing Post's Irish operations.
Yes, Karl, I qualified as an accountant, and then I worked with a private equity company who were buying businesses. Joined them in 2006, and having wasted my youth on racing and betting, I managed to bring it all together again, whereby I introduced them to Alan Byrne, who at the time he'd previously served as managing editor Racing Post, and Trinity Mirror were selling the business. And Alan, my bosses and a group of investors came together and bought the Racing Post in 2007, and that involved me moving away from investment and into operations. So I moved to London and helped with the management of that company with Alan Byrne, which was a great experience.
Now, what prompted you to set up Renatus Capital Partners, and how did your business partnership with Brendan Traynor emerge?
Brendan was my boss in BDO Simpson Xavier, and Brendan's been 15 years in there buying and selling businesses. He's worked on 50 types of transactions. I worked with Brendan as I trained and kept in touch with him, and we both got together and said we'd like to apply our experience, my experience I suppose of operations, commercial and doing a few deals, his experience of doing a lot of deals, and marrying that with people who had money but not necessarily the time to go around looking for opportunities. So we all came together and found it a unique proposition, which is a funded private equity fund to invest €1 to €3 million equity in deals.
Now, I understand that in the early days of Renatus Capital Partners, Ireland's capital gains tax arrangements posed a problem in terms of getting private investors on board.
There was a time when there was an exemption on, that exemption's gone. People could buy a building, sell it 7 years later, and any gain they had was not liable to capital gains tax. But yet somebody who invested in a business, which isn't simple, businesses in Ireland need investment to drive them on. Anyone who invested in a business, and if they happen to be one of the lucky ones who got a gain, they're paying 33% capital gain. So some people were saying, why would I do this, as compared to just investing in a dry building and not having the hassle of dealing with as many people.
And what are your thoughts on the revenue scheme, the EIS?
I think the spirit of it is very good, whereby I've just left a company where a good friend and a former employee got set up from scratch through getting investment from people who invested through EIS. So straight away they get their 30% tax back, and they'll probably get 10% more in a few years' time. So that's I think the spirit of it is excellent. The execution is a little trickier. So what it's supposed to do is that if somebody invests, they get a tax break for that investment. But there's a lot of paperwork involved, and it's good in principle, but it can be hard to actually execute in practice.
Now, the company itself made a conscious decision to work with SME companies, but there are certain criteria that they have to meet, which would deem them an eligible SME for investment. What are they?
The criteria we have are the business must be making sustainable profits of 500,000 plus, and the reason being that businesses generally are worth somewhere, traditional steady Irish businesses are worth somewhere between 4 and 6 times their profits, and if you're not making 500,000, you're probably you're might be worth less than 2 million, and if you're worth less than 2 million, you don't take $1 million investment. So unfortunately, that falls out of our scope. But so it leaves us probably playing around the top 10% of Irish businesses. The top 1% are probably too big, and the bottom 90% are too early or too small.
And how do you go about identifying your ideal target market?
Well, I guess we speak to a lot of the financial advisors, speak to a lot of the banks. Generally, anything we do, there's 3 types of deals we really focus on. Or management buy out a company from the existing owner or vendor. The second is where a vendor sells and we put in place the management team. And the third is where a business is buying another business. So in all those instances, there's an amount of money required, and the bank will always co-invest with us. So the bank will give probably 50 to 70% of what's required, and we will play with it. We will put the difference in. That's generally the way. If you think of a bank, like if you equate it to a mortgage, the bank will probably give 80%. But you need 20% in equity because that's the risky part, and we take the risky part. And
are you looking at SMEs that are operating within specific sectors, or are sector specialism secondary to the investment proposition?
In Ireland you can't really specialise in any sector, so we really focus on good profitable businesses with great management teams. So we've looked at everything in every sector, and we will do. But management teams are more important than the sector for us, and good management is what we want.
Now, perhaps programmes like Dragon's Den and The Apprentice glamorise the investment process, but in general terms, how long does it take to finalise private investment?
I think if banks aren't involved, it'll take from day one to a check. It could take 3 months, but if banks are involved, I think you got to allow yourself 6 months.
Now, if you've just tuned in, I'm speaking to Mark Flood from Renatus Capital Partners. Mark, aside from the financial investment, what other expertise can Renatus bring to the investor-investee relationship?
I think that's very important, because people just look at money and say, "Oh, I think across the board you got to look at the value add, and our investors include 3 CEOs of Irish PLCs, 2 of Ireland's wealthiest families, and they're all very engaged and want to help with people. So a lot of what we can bring is through that network. We can bring a lot of mentorship and introductions, and we can also ourselves, we've quite extensive experience, so we kind of call ourselves relief financial directors. So we can come in and help with the strategic finance, be it banking, funding for growth, tenders, systems, anything else. And we're also like a kind of a mini consultancy company who can come in and if you've got something that you need help with, we can come in and really spend a lot of time and help fix it. So we're very hands-on ourselves, both Brendan, myself, and the 3 guys working with us. And then our investors are also very helpful, and we can hopefully help companies and businesses bring their business to the next level and realise their full potential. And I think a lot of people got to realise is that regardless of whether they sell the business or not, if you double the profits of your business, you'll probably treble the value because you bring it into a whole new bracket.
Now, typically as an investor, would Renatus be looking for a controlling interest in a company? No, we're open-minded. Like if a guy wants to sell his business and he's decided, right, I want to, it could be, Wexford might win the All-Ireland and he kind of retires and says, I just want to celebrate with them for the next 2 years. He'll be waiting a while.
They could sell it all, and so we're open to kind of buy everything. But equally, there's a lot of good businesses where we're in talks at the moment where somebody wants to say buy another business. They might need 4 million. The bank will give them 2. We need to give them 2, and we might end up doing a deal whereby we have a minority stake of that business, and we've no problem with that. That's we work with a business. We're not in we don't want jobs ourselves, so we don't want to come in and do someone's job for them. And equally, it's not about complete ownership or anything like that. It's about shared ownership, partnership, and everybody sitting around. And we'd prefer 33% of a great business than 78% of an average business.
Now, we're all familiar with mergers and acquisitions here in Ireland, but from your experience, how common are management buy-ins and buyouts within the Irish SME sector?
I think they've been very quiet recently. There's been some great success stories over the years, and you could look at some of even, you could look at, I think people got to see it as an opportunity for management to get an equity stake in the business. It's not, it's often shrouded in complicated lingo like MBO, MBI, but if you look at some of the wealthiest Irish guys, and you look at the Dennis Brosnans of Kerry, you look at the Michael O'Learys, you look at all the Paddy Power guys, they all were effectively management who got equity stakes in businesses. And there's a lot of smaller success stories. We meet guys a lot of times, people who would have made 1, 2, 3, 4 million from, they were maybe a finance director or a CEO of a business. The owner decided to retire. They said they'd buy it and they sold it, and they never really made the big headlines, but they all made a few million for themselves. And people got to realise in a management position that they can actually own equity in their business, and we help management achieve that, because a lot of times the management need a funder, a backer and a mentor, and we work with the management teams to unlock that business from their vendor. Yeah, and a lot of owners want to see their business. It's not about the money. It's not about they want to see the business in good hands. They want to be able to go to the GA club, go to the golf club and meet someone, hold their head up high and know that their business is still serving the customers that they set it up to do. And in many times they want their management to own their business because they're the best custodians of what effectively is their baby.
Now, Mark, we've spoken about what you're looking for from an investment perspective and the specifics of the investment process itself. Last year, Renatus completed its first deal when it acquired, by partnership, Boojum, the Mexican fast casual restaurant chain. What was so appealing about this business, and how will the business develop as a result of this partnership?
Two things, Karl. A guy set up the business and he'd taken it to as far as he was going to take it. He was trying to manage it himself. He got it to 5 stores. And we, in partnership with two guys who ran a lot of Irish bars and had ability and experience of running multiple stores, they came with their own money. They wanted to buy it. The bank would only give them so much. So we filled the gap. So together with these two guys, we bought the business, brought in new management, and what was a 5-store outlet by the end of this year will be a 10-store outlet, and hopefully if things go well it might be a 20-store outlet next year. And it's we every store we open creates 40 jobs, and we generally open where there's young professionals. It's a good example of how we can come in and help people scale a business from a good business to be a great business.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.